Arsenal's unbeaten run in this season's Champions League was brought to an end by a controversial first-half penalty as Inter Milan won at the San Siro. The hosts were awarded a spot kick seconds before the break when Mikel Merino was deemed to have handled the ball, although there was little he could do to move out of the way of Mehdi Terami's flick on, but the decision stood after a check by the video assistant referee VAR, and Hakan Çalhanoğlu confidently sent the penalty down the middle. It was the first goal Arsenal had conceded in Europe this campaign, but they still had plenty of time to equalise, and they went close after the break, but Dumfries cleared Gabriel's header from a corner off the line. Arsenal continued to dominate in the second half, with Inter goalkeeper Jan Sommer pulling off a superb one-handed save to keep out Kai Havertz's curling shot. Havertz again went close as the Gunners pushed, this time seeing an effort blocked superbly by Jan Bissek. But Mikel Arteta's side suffered their first loss in 4 games in Europe this season, a result that leaves them 12th in the 30-16 Ligue. Promising display, but difficult spell continues for Arsenal. It has been a tough couple of weeks for Arsenal in the Premier League, where a run of 3 games without victory has left them 5th and 7 points behind leaders Liverpool. Their form hasn't been helped by a tough run of injuries, with talismanic captain Martin Odegaard having been absent with an ankle injury since the end of August. But the Gunners were boosted by his return to training this week, and he was fit enough to take his place on the bench at Inter, where Arsenal were hoping to continue their strong form in Europe. They were unbeaten in their 3 previous Champions League outings, which included an impressive 2-0 win against Paris Saint-Germain, but Inter posed arguably their most difficult challenge in Europe yet this season, having won 7 of their previous 8 games in all competitions. Inter started strongly, but Arsenal were the better side. In contrast to the defeat by Newcastle last weekend, the Gunners created plenty of chances, but were ultimately undone by the harsh penalty decision. They were only denied a leveller by a number of excellent saves and last-ditch defending by the hosts. Despite the loss, there is encouragement for Arsenal to take from this performance as they look to reignite their faltering Premier League campaign, particularly with some key injured personnel returning, while Odegaard's introduction 2 minutes into stoppage time was not enough to influence this result. His appearance will give Arsenal fans hope he will be more involved against Chelsea in the league on Sunday. Watch highlights of every Champions League game from 22 o'clock GMT on Wednesday at BBC Player and the BBC Sport website and app. There will also be a Champions League match of the day at BBC One on Wednesday from 22:50 to 0:10. We were very harshly done. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta talking to TNT Sports after the 1-0 loss to Inter Milan in the Champions League. I am very proud of my players and the level of domination we had. We were very harshly done by in the sense that is obvious. Both penalties. If you were going to give a penalty, the other one has to be because he punches him in the head. There is no deflection. Nothing you can do in the box. So can he get away from it? If he's going to give that, the other has to be 100% a penalty. We should have scored a couple at least, but the way the team played, that was us at least. Every decision in the box makes a difference. Nothing wrong with mentality and the way they're fighting. Former Arsenal centre-back Matthew Upson, speaking to BBC Radio 5 Live about the Gunners' 1-0 loss against Inter in the Champions League. The result is a big setback for Arsenal, but it was a very good performance in terms of how they handled the game and the chances created. There is going to be criticism about the fact that they're not getting enough goals and players are not finding that final touch, and that is a big problem for Arsenal at the moment. But the way they went about the game, there's nothing wrong in terms of the group of players, their mentality and the way they're fighting. There were a number of positives to take out of the performance. It just didn't have the result. It's not falling apart. The performance had a bit of backbone and spirit to it. Ex-Gunners defender Martin Keown, speaking to TNT Sports, I don't think there is a massive crisis for Arsenal. I don't think they are far away from getting it right. Yes, they're not scoring goals, but Ethan Nwaneri coming on He should have been on a bit earlier. Arsenal's unbeaten run in Europe this season is over, but they will likely feel aggrieved at the manner in which it was ended. A penalty on the stroke of half-time, converted by Hakan Çalhanoğlu, secured a 1-0 win for Inter Milan, who defended valiantly to repel Arsenal's many efforts to grab an equaliser. But it was the penalty decision that had pundits and fans talking at half-time, with Mikel Merino penalised for a handball, although there was little he could have done to avoid making contact with the ball from a flick on. It's a crazy decision from the referee to award a penalty for that. Former Arsenal defender Matt Upson said on BBC Radio 5 Live, "It's ruined our game, to be honest," said ex-Gunners centre-back Martin Keown on TNT Sports. Fortunately for Arsenal, the loss should not be too damaging. Having won 2 and drawn 1 of their 3 previous games in Europe, they are still in a strong position to qualify from the league phase of the Champions League. Instead, Arsenal fans should draw encouragement from their side's second-half display, where they had enough chances to win several games, but found themselves up against some excellent goalkeeping and last-ditch defending. If any team hopes to bolster their attack a January or summer transfer window, then Sporting Lisbon's number 9, Victor Gyökeres, has to be in the conversation. Following Tuesday's hat-trick against Manchester City in the Champions League, Gyökeres is the joint leading scorer in this season's most elite European competition with Harry Kane, and has scored 66 goals in 67 matches for the reigning Primeira Liga champions. The skeptics, who have argued the standard of football in Portugal, if not that of Premier League, are likely to have been silenced by the striker's performance against the often dubbed best team in the world. So if the Sweden international is to be snapped up by an English club, where could he go? Well, Gyökeres is not going to be cheap, so it will have to be a club with long-term ambition and deep pockets. The 26-year-old is believed to have a release clause of 100 meters euros £83 million, despite only signing from Coventry City into 2023 for a fee close to £20 million in 2023. Premier League clubs were linked to Gyökeres while he was at the Championship club, but it was Sporting who seized the opportunity to sign him. The most obvious choice would be to follow head coach Ruben Amorim to Old Trafford. However, with the club already owning Rasmus Højlund, Joshua Zirkzee and Antony, it is unlikely they would sign Gyökeres without selling at least one. Plus, it was Dan Ashworth, the current sporting director of United, that sold Gyökeres to Coventry for just £1 million in 2021 from former club Brighton. United's neighbours Manchester City could view Gyökeres as a long-term replacement for Erling Haaland should he leave the Etihad, and Sporting's director Hugo Viana may want to re-sign his Sporting star when he succeeds the outgoing Saiki Bijiristane. Liverpool could also be in the market if Mohamed Salah does not sign a new contract and departs Anfield after 8 years next summer. Chelsea, who have 3 strikers, have proven they like to spend big in recent transfer windows, but it is their rivals in North London that appear to be the most obvious fit. Fans and pundits have long said that Arsenal need a number 9. Mikel Arteta's side would be formidable with a striker like Gyökeres and would be strong contenders in the league and Europe if he could replicate his form there. I could see that, columnist Nedum Onwoha told BBC Sport. From the style of play that I have seen from him and the intelligence he has, he's a handful. If he comes to England, then it is important to note that he is simply coming back because he has already got experience playing here, and he knows the physical level required. He comes across as very coachable, so in an Arsenal system, it could really work for him and them. That is on the assumption that he is the sort of player that the Gunners are looking for. In the meantime, Gyökeres will no doubt continue to add to his price tag by doing what he does best. A lot of ground for Arsenal to make up. Former Premier League defender Nedum Onwoha believes Arsenal are having a bit of a wobble, but still thinks it's too early in the season to rule them out of the title race. The former Manchester City defender said, "A little bit of a wobble is the best way to describe it. but it's coming at a time when Liverpool are very close to perfect. But I'm thinking it's so early in the season. Then I look at the table and it's 7 points in some of these title races, which is what we assume Arsenal will be expecting. That's a lot of ground to make up. Former Chelsea and Brighton manager Graham Potter also believes the Gunners have been unlucky, given the injury layoff Martin Odegaard has had, and that it has forced Mikel Arteta to ask questions about how they approach games. Okay, how does the makeup of our team change, and what sort of patterns that we have in midfield to adjust to the loss of him? And I suppose that's where they've tried to find it. Potter said, all of a sudden, you've got Partey, Rice, Marino. It's not the same creativity, but they'll be hopeful that over time, those relationships will build up and the decision-making starts to become quicker. They can make those incisive passes or assists. But I think that while you're dealing with the loss of such an influential player in the first place, that's always a problem. Arteta on Odegaard. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta has been speaking to the media before Wednesday's Champions League game against Inter. Kick-off 20 o'clock GMT. Here are the key lines from his news conference. Arteta confirmed that they will assess Martin Odegaard to see if he can play a part tomorrow, but Declan Rice has picked up a foot injury and won't be available on Captain Odegaard's return. The positive news is he's back. Martin, it is great to have him back. He trained with us for the first time today. He felt good. He's a bit earlier than expected, but it's great to have him here, and we will decide if we use him tomorrow. On Rice's injury, Declan unfortunately picked an injury against Newcastle. He was able to finish the game, but he wasn't feeling good the last few days with his foot. We'll have to assess him on Thursday and see if he's ready for the weekend. Arteta said the situation with Eddie resigning happened very quickly, but continued, I loved working with him. I really enjoyed being alongside him in this incredible journey. From day one, we have been together. I'm very grateful personally for everything he's done for me and for the football club, he added. I think we both had this special chemistry working together. Both really enjoyed our roles and working together. I'm very blessed that he's been part of my life, managing this incredible club, and he's been a massive part of that. He's had an amazing opportunity now to do something else in a different role. He feels that's the right move for him. We have to respect that. On if this will affect the progress the club has made, the plan and vision that start with the ownership is going to continue. We have a very strong leadership team. We have great know-how and passion for the football club, so we're not going to stop where we are at the moment. The passion, excitement and understanding of where we want to take this journey remains intact. He said they are in an incredible moment and blessed to be where they are, despite all the tests they are having with injuries and Edu's resignation. On Bukayo Saka having the captain's armband, people admire him, people respect him, they want to be next to him. He has capacity to inject positivity in people. He has a particular way of smiling. He's one of our leaders right now. He's earned that status in the team right now. Midfielder Declan Rice has not travelled with the Arsenal squad to Italy and will miss Wednesday's match against Inter Milan. In more positive news for the Gunners, Captain Martin Odegaard has returned to full training after 2 months out with an ankle injury and did travel with the squad. The New York Times. Rory Smith believes Eddie has not left Arsenal as a result of a fallout, but believes the Brazilian wanted to move somewhere he could have more impact and more influence. Smith spoke about how he thinks the Gunners are now a club shaped by Arteta, and the impact of Edu's role is reduced because of this. Meanwhile, former Premier League goalkeeper Shay Given thinks Edu's departure is a bit of a rocket for Arsenal, and that from the outside it looked like the perfect match. Arsenal have identified 25-year-old Newcastle United forward Alexander Isak as their top transfer target. Although the Magpies would demand a fee of about £100 million for the Sweden international, Eddie is set to take up a role within the network of clubs controlled by Nottingham Forest owner Evangelos Marinakis. After resigning as Arsenal sporting director, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta will have a major say in how the club replaces Eddie Howe as sporting director. Former midfielder and invincible, Eddie Howe has left his role as sporting director at Arsenal, and we asked you to have your say on the news and how it might impact the team. Here are some of your comments. Eric, gutted. He has been great working in tandem with Arteta and had seemed fully committed to the club. What next for Arteta? Hopefully, he won't be tempted away. Eddie Howe is going to be difficult to replace. Vince, like all good businesses, there needs be a rapport between key staff, so that the right hand always knows what the left hand is doing and act accordingly, and vice versa. This feels like severing one of those hands. Time will tell if the replacement limb or system works just as well. Mind you, it's not like we've won a string of titles with Eddie Howe. Grant, Arteta should be leaving. He's a coach, not a manager. He's not a winner. He's a sparring partner. Eddie Howe has brought some exciting talent and shall be a big loss. Tony, not really concerned. Why? Because he has forgotten there are many fine English players in the Premier League at junior level. Signs of slight weakness and the checkbook is out. We need to progress more of our own junior players too. He has done a fine job, but no one is irreplaceable. Eden, I think it will be a blow. However, at the moment, we only need to focus on what's happening on the pitch. Arteta and Arsenal can draw in players based on their names alone. If Manchester United can get big names, we definitely can. Sim, what happens behind the scenes has real impact on performance. When David Dein left, that was a great loss for Arsene Wenger and fed down into match performance. I don't want to see the same happen with Eddie Howe, but maybe it helps in part to explain recent performances. Keith, Eddie Howe has always been a great asset to Arsenal. Maybe he's being made the scapegoat for recent shocking performances. If he was responsible for letting Emil Smith-Rowe go and letting Raheem Sterling and Kai Havertz in, then, for me, he had to fall on his sword. Arsenal sporting director Eddie Howe has said it was a special journey with the club after resigning from his role. After reports emerged the former Gunners midfielder was set to leave the club, it was confirmed in a statement by Arsenal on Monday. Eddie Howe had rejoined them in the role of technical director in July 2019, before he was promoted in November 2022, overseeing the men's, women's and academy football. This was an incredibly hard decision to make, the 49-year-old said. Arsenal have given me the opportunity to work with so many amazing people and the chance to be a part of something so special in the club's history. I've loved working with so many great colleagues across our men's, women's and academy teams, especially Mikkel, who has become a great friend. Now it is time to pursue a different challenge. Arsenal will always remain in my heart. I wish the club and its supporters only good things and all the very best. Since returning to the club, he has helped oversee their transformation under Mikel Arteta into FA Cup winners and Premier League title challengers. Arsenal co-chair Josh Kroenke added, "We respect Edu's decision and thank him for his immense contribution and dedication to drive the club forward. Everyone at the club wishes him well. We are all so fond of him and the positive energy he brings to everything and everyone. Change and evolution is a part of our club. We remain focused on our strategy and winning major trophies. Our succession plan will reflect this continued ambition." Rees asked, "Are Arsenal really in a crisis? It has been 10 games, but they have played Tottenham, Manchester City, Aston Villa and Newcastle away and Liverpool at home, losing only to Newcastle. Surely it is just a blip." Phil answered, "They lost at Bournemouth as well. It is far too early to say Arsenal are in crisis, but it has undoubtedly been a tough couple of weeks with those defeats. I do agree with you that they have had a pretty tough opening sequence of fixtures and will be on the up again once Martin Odegaard returns. I am certainly not writing them off, although Manchester City's loss at Bournemouth will have been a relief because an 8-point gap to the champions would have been difficult. My main question about Arsenal is that lack of a regular 20 goals a season striker. I wonder if, as the season goes on, manager Mikel Arteta will regret not addressing that in the summer. But crisis, think they are a fair way from that."